Hey everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country on MKOCRadio.com. My guests tonight are steeped in the bluegrass tradition in both the instruments they play and their beautiful voices. They have a brand new album called Under the Mountain, and it's a pleasure to have them both with us tonight on My Kind of Country. This is Dewey and Leslie Brown. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great. Thank you, Scott. And hello to everybody listening.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, before we talk about the album, give me a little bit of history for both of you guys. I know that Leslie, I know you wrote most of the songs on the new album, and I want to commend you for that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, for me, I started out really young in bluegrass, just listening to bluegrass music, being a fan, and started clogging and going to bluegrass festivals with my grandparents, and I was raised in the Appalachian Mountains, which you'll find that's what a lot of my songs are about. But so that's kind of where my love for bluegrass came from. And then I met Dewey, and as he'll tell you a little bit more, but he played for Dr. Ralph Stanley, and so that even furthered my love for bluegrass, and then it kind of went from there.
Well, that's fantastic. How long have you guys been married now?
11 years last Saturday.
Anniversary.
Hey, well, happy anniversary. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Dewey, I know you have played in a lot of wonderful places, including Carnegie Hall, the Letterman Show, the Grand Ole Opry, and you were with Mr. Ralph Stanley for many years also.
Yes, sir, I sure was. That was just for a young person. I was around 23 when I started playing with him, and continued to travel with him and play everywhere he went until he passed away back in 2016. Sure did. We really miss Ralph, but he was always very good to me, and Leslie as well.
Well, that's wonderful. I had Nathan on my show a couple years ago, and he's a great guy too. And I've always wondered what it was like to work for Mr. Stanley. He looked like he was a very professional person and really took care of business.
He sure did. He was a good person to work for. Probably the best I'd worked for playing music, and no doubt. And he was professional, and as long as you kind of knew what you were expected of, as when you were in that position, and as long as you did your job well, there was never anything said.
Absolutely. He had a big resurgence in his career when "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" came out. That really gave bluegrass music a whole new platform.
He sure did, and and I guess I was fortunate enough to kind of ride the wave with him on that, and I got to see a lot of the after. I didn't get to participate in the movie part with him, and some of the tours right after the movie, but then. Shortly after that is when I joined him in '05, and it was definitely, you could tell, everywhere we went, kind of gave him a huge boost.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure did.
Well, the new album is called Under the Mountain, and you can go to DeweyandLeslieBrown.com. And Leslie, tell me a little bit about the Carolina Gentlemen.
All right. Well, yeah, the Carolina Gentlemen. We've got, of course, my husband, but and we've got on banjo Brandon Henson. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina. And on guitar we have Tim Spence, and he is originally from Coalwood, West Virginia, but resides in Kings Mountain, North Carolina now. And then we've got Kendall Gales on the mandolin, and he lives in Liberty, North Carolina. And they're just an amazingly talented group of guys, and they're really fun to travel with. And we're really tickled to have them in our band for sure.
It's a very great sound. Now, did all these guys play on the album with you as well?
They did. They all played on the album, and with our live show, we play it just like we do on the album. It's what you hear with the album is what you get on the show.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Dewey, the new single is called "These Old Mountains." Give me a little bit of background on that song.
Yeah, that's one that Leslie wrote, and it was one of probably the first songs that we kind of put together as a me and her kind of, all these songs kind of developed as Leslie wrote them, and then we would kind of get together, me and her, with the guitar and the bass, and kind of put the melodies with them and work out the harmonies, and so that was one of the first ones we had the chance to work out together. and it just turned out Leslie she tells kind of her story from the mountains, kind of calling her home. Actually, we live in North Carolina, where I'm from and raised, and I met Leslie playing out when I was with Ralph Stanley. She was dancing out in the crowd doing some clogging, and one of the shows we were at, and we met that night, and that was kind of the start of that. And later got married, and then now we're playing together. But she wrote that song, "Those Old Mountains Are Calling Me Home." I think it's kind of her story, and that the mountains are always calling her back home, even though she's not living there anymore. So she could, honey, you tell.
Yeah, well, you're right. That's exactly what it is. It's kind of like my theme song. I always missed home and my parents' home, and I was just driving down the road one day, actually leaving from a visit from my parents in the mountains, and I just looked back in the rearview mirror and seen the mountains and just thought, those old mountains are calling me home. So, excuse me. So, that's kind of where the song came from, and it talks about my dad. He was a coal miner, and growing up, how hard he worked, and my mom reading the Bible and that sort of thing. So that's where the song came from.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So Leslie, you are truly a coal miner's daughter then, right?
I am officially
That's right.
a coal miner's daughter. Yes, sir.
I love that. That's great. Well, that leads me to the next song, "Black Lung." That's certainly, I'm sure, drawn from the coal mining industry.
Yeah, it definitely is. Now, Hazel Dickens wrote that song, and I heard it a while back, and it just spoke to me because my dad does have black lung, and I just thought about, we've had so many people in our family die from black lung that were coal miners, and it just really spoke to that, and kind of the industry and what happens to them. So when I heard that song, I just really felt led to record it.
That's great. Another old standard that I've always loved, and Dewey, a nod to the great fiddle playing on this, is "Pretty Polly."
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That is a fun song. We wanted to do. When me and Leslie started the band, we talked early about having, kind of what our plan was and what kind of material we wanted to go out and do, and we wanted to do our own material, but yet we wanted to kind of. We couldn't. It was hard not to do one of the songs of Ralph's that he made so popular with Patty Loveless, and it was worked out great. Me and Leslie could share in it, and the singing parts, and so nobody had really done that in a while. So I thought, well, let's try it, and so it turned out good. We really enjoyed doing that one.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've always loved that song. And
it is.
DeweyandLeslieBrown.com is the website. The new album is called Under the Mountain, and we've got Dewey and Leslie both with us today talking about this great new project. And this is your first album together, is that right?
It sure is.
Well, that's fabulous,
Yep.
and I'm sure there'll be many more.
She's a powerful songwriter. We've got enough material ready to start another one, so we're just getting ready to talk about some dates, maybe to go back in and we can do some more recording.
Well, you guys definitely sound very well together, and you certainly fit well together. And I absolutely love the bass fiddle. I think the stand-up bass is making a huge comeback. And Leslie, it's a lost art that's really made a comeback, and you hear it on a lot of recordings nowadays.
I agree. Thank you.
Well, tell me about some of the other songs that kind of stand out for you on this album.
One of the others that kind of comes to mind is we were talking about the coal mines, and that's what a lot of my life revolves around. So another song that I wrote was "Little Canary," and I think Dewey sings that really well. And it's about when the canaries used to go into the mines to detect the methane gas, because way back when they didn't have the gas monitoring systems. They used yellow canaries, and so that's another song that kind of revolved around the mines and how things were done in the old days. And I just thought about how the miner really had his life in that canary's wings, so to speak. So that song kind of tells that story.
Well, that's very interesting. We have a very loyal listener and also an artist that writes and records his own music. His name is Arnold Connolly, and he lives in New Jersey, and he is an executive for a coal mining company there, so he's going to be real interested to hear this tonight.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll send
All right, yeah.
we'll send a shout out to Arnold. I know he'll be listening to this.
That's right.
Hey, Arnold.
Well, tell me about the song. This one is to me is one of the standout songs on the album, and it's called "Ultimate Sacrifice."
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I wrote that song as well, and you know, I feel like the words of that song just really are so true because Jesus did give the ultimate sacrifice, you know, for us, and that's kind of what I was thinking about when I wrote it, you know, about how much he gave up and, you know, how we should look to him. And a lot of times we forget in the daily life of, you know, things and problems that come up, and kind of about going to God first, and that's kind of what inspired that song, Ultimate Sacrifice.
Amen.
Yeah, we got a little extra help on that one. Our good friend, where we recorded it, Red Square Audio in North Carolina here, Daniel Ruth, that travels with his band New Blue. He helped us a lot with we recorded it at his studio, and then he sang baritone on that song, and then we had our good friend Nathan Aldridge, who's the new fiddle player and bass singer with Third Time Out. He's singing bass on it with us, so he's a good friend of mine and lives close to us. So he was in the studio with us a lot through the project, just hanging out, and he ended up adding a little bass singing on there with us on that one. So that's the only parts of the album that aren't the original band, but it really adds a lot to it. We like the way it turned out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, New Blue was on my show a while back too. Those guys are fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Daniel and Carolyn, they're great. They're good people. They really are.
Absolutely. Well, any tour dates coming up?
Yeah, we got several. Tell them, honey, where we're going to be.
Yeah, we do. The next place we're going to be is Lorraine's Coffee House in Garner, North Carolina. That'll be July 13th. And then July 15th, we're going to be in Luray, Virginia at Cooter's. Ben Cooter from the Dukes of Hazzard, his theater up there in Luray, Virginia. And we've got a lot of other tour dates coming up. We're working on things right now, but I've got some dates in Kentucky in December, and Air Festival, Dewey Fest in Birmingham, North Carolina. Yeah, we'll be there October the 20th, and the festival is the 19th, 20th, and 21st, and you guys can check that out, deweyfest.com, but we'll be playing there, as well as a lot of other good bands, and our tour schedule is on our website, deweyandleslieBrown.com. You can also follow us on Facebook or Instagram to kind of find out what we're up to.
Yeah, we're adding shows all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fantastic. And, of course, the album you can get at iTunes, CD Baby, and Spotify. And if you get in touch with Dewey and Leslie through their website, you can get an autographed copy of the CD as well. So I encourage you to do that.
Sure.
And we always recommend to our listeners to get the entire album because you want to hear it in its entirety. I think an album takes you on a musical journey, and I think that's the way to listen to music. I know this is an age of downloads, one song here and there, but I'll tell you what, if you get the whole album, you won't be disappointed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, DeweyandLeslieBrown.com is the website again. The album is Under the Mountain, and we're going to play the single for you, Those Old Mountains, right now. And Dewey and Leslie, I want to thank you both for taking time to be on the show tonight. It's been an honor to have you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott.
All right. My Kind of Country continues right here on MKOCRadio.com.